Thank you, Mayor. I think we're going to start with an update from our Development Services Department. Mark Van Vleck is going to give you the city performance report on that department.
Mark Van Vleck, Interim Assistant City Manager for Public Works and Utilities, but that's not why I'm here today. Today I'm here to talk about Development Services. A quick reminder about the layout on the City Performance Report. In this area up here, you have the baseline information, operational profile, which is where we put data that may be needed to compare ourselves to other cities. So if another city wants to look at us, we consider that critical information for them to look at. And then finally, down in this area is the monthly performance metrics that we used to manage, grouped by mission and mission elements. First off, let's go back to the baseline information, and there's a couple of issues that I want to highlight here. One is the valuation of residential permits issued, which is about right in here, okay, just above there. And notice that it's up from about 135 million to 215 million, so which is the direction we want that to be going. And also in that area, which I think is almost as important, is acres final being platted. That is on an upward trend. In FY 10-11, it was 364. In 11-12, it was 651, and we're now at 843, which shows that we're back essentially working off that inventory that was kind of sitting there that had sat while the economy was down. So we've kind of worked that off, and we're now seeing more plats, which is also important for us to look at.
Miss Aguilar, your light is on. Did you need to speak?
No, Your Honor. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Moving now over to some areas on the mission elements and some items that I'd like to highlight. Looking at residential permit issuance, and the chart that you're seeing there is, notice it was in downward trend, and then we kind of had a slight blip back up. I mean, it's not a huge, but it essentially took us from 1 up to 2 days. And what that is we had a developer that took us at our word and submitted their residential plans the same day they submitted their plat. We completed the review in 1 day, but we couldn't issue the permit until the plat had been approved and recorded. So that data is reflected. So it's making us maybe look at how we actually measure that one by time of actual review, and then additionally to permit issuance. But we did want to encourage developers to submit them at the same time so that we can work on them both. But it did reflect in an upward tick in our data as to what's going on there. And then finally, the next thing I want to do, but it's not on this chart, is our benchmarking progress. On November 1st, we met with our counterparts from Austin, Brownsville, McAllen, and San Antonio. Unable to participate, but planning to participate in our benchmarking are Dallas, Fort Worth, El Paso, Arlington, Laredo, and Midland. During the meeting, we established the method and timing for 6 metrics that we'll start with, including how to submit it, and kind of the rules on how do you measure a day, when does a day start, all those kind of things. It sounds like it should be easy, but you find that it's not as easy as you think when you start trying to compare apples to apples. But we did arrive at 6 metrics that we're going to start with on that. As a wrap-up, we've made improvement, but there's still progress to be made. But I want to read an email that I received this morning that I think bodes well for us. This is from Robert Howe, the project manager for Realtex, which is the company that's working on Cosmopolitan. And what he sent is the cooperation between all City of Corpus Christi departments, and specifically from Development Services, is first rate and as good as I've seen in city government as big as Corpus Christi. There are many cities out there that should aspire to be as effective, professional, and helpful. So those are the kind of, obviously I still get some of the other emails, but it's nice to at least be getting some of these. And I'm open for any questions you may have.
Mr. McGill?
Real quick, on the comment about acres in final plat, what do we have a metric in terms of acres available or acres in process?
We're not tracking that right now, but we could easily do it.
Okay.
It's part of, I just haven't put it together. It's in the same table. The information is there. I could just keep track of that.
I
Of
think
the amount
it
that's
might
in
be a good
process in
indicator
addition to
of
actually.
the growth that we're experiencing, especially in the last year and this year, and in terms of what's available out there too. I think that might be helpful.
Okay.
And then last with you know what, I forgot my question. Oh, well. No, actually, I was going to ask about, I'd heard some of the same comments from Realtex as well, and I think it's important to note that those are developers who really hadn't worked with the city of Corpus Christi prior to this effort, as well as they're from another town, and this is one of the smallest cities they've worked in a number of years. Corpus Christi is growing, but it's good and encouraging to hear those outside developers have those positive comments. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mark, on the, I was curious about, I received an email on Kitty Hawk from a mother, of course, who had concerns about not having a planned park. And I know those are the options that are by our statute and our ordinance and our policies, that those that are explored and decided on the developer, and also working hand in hand with development services. If there's any way we can look at that for some type of disclosure process, I don't know if it was represented to them. Let me tell you, on the real estate transactions, on those contracts, there's so many disclosures on those addendums. But I guess I don't know if there's a conversation that has to be had with any of the developers as far as any outreach of maybe a neighborhood association or something regarding whether or not they're going to have a park. So with that said, there was a decision not to have the park.
Yes, ma'am. We're following the Parks Master Plan,
Sure.
which essentially says don't build any more new parks. Let's concentrate on the ones that we have. And that's went into that discussion.
Okay. Well, then I think we need to have a conversation about how we get that information out.
Okay.
And especially working with new subdivisions, because should they want a park on their unilaterally as a consensus within their neighborhoods, then that's something they'll have to explore unilaterally. And because they could still have one, correct?
Their homeowners association, if they were to take over and maintain it and administer it, then they would be able to have a park.
Yeah, I just think since that, and I recall when we went through that initiative and that effort, but I certainly think not everybody's aware of it, and maybe there's one mechanism we can put in to where the developers with any intended future homeowners, they can have those discussions, and should they decide to do that, that will be their responsibility and how it moves forward as far as with the construction and the maintenance moving forward on those. Okay? All right. Last thing is, what a great job. I mean, this is a whole different story in development services, and I think you're right. We have some improvements, but you know, when you don't get any emails, and they're not as many, that the plethora that I used to receive a few years ago, that to me is what we recognize as speaking volumes and reflective of the improvement and the energy that has gone into this effort. So thank you for your leadership, and please thank your team.
Absolutely. I have a great staff.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move forward. Is there anything else, Mr. Olson?
Yes, ma'am. I do want to echo your comments about development services. I think several years ago they were in a crisis mode. There were people in the community, in the development community, who I think had lost hope that we could ever fix what was apparently a broken department. And I believe that at this point in time we've fixed the department. It's back to normal. It's back to normal continuous improvement at this point. It's not in crisis. And I think, you know, it's important, I think, to recognize Mark and his team for the great work they've done there. And I want to emphasize, he mentioned the benchmarking effort that he's made. This is the first department in the city that has engaged a formalized benchmarking effort. The benchmarking effort is absolutely critical to achieve my vision of being the best city in Texas. Because how do you know you're the best city in Texas if you don't have metrics to compare to other operations? So the development department has taken the first big step to establish benchmarking partners and benchmarking criteria with other significant cities in the state of Texas. It's my intent that every other department follow that lead as they're capable of doing it, and do the very same thing. Establish benchmarking partners, benchmarking criteria, and strive with key metrics to become the best city, best operation in Texas. So he went over that fairly quickly, and I don't want the council to miss the significance of what he said there.
Is this from using Maximo also?
No, ma'am. This is actually comes out of HTE, which is the software we're trying to replace, and actually to be getting to better metrics is why we're going to the new software. It's very difficult to go out of this, but this is under the permitting software that we use.
Okay. Mr. Loeb?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Mark, that I'm really happy with the job you've done. I was pretty critical of the department, and I thought that what had happened was we'd gotten into a system where if something didn't work, we'd ignore it. And to your credit, you really took over. You worked at systematizing things. You really went and read ordinances, and you were also willing, when the ordinance needed to get changed, to better suit the needs of the city and the customers and the community. You came to us and you said, here are the changes we need, and did it in a totally open way, whereas I think in the past it would sometimes be kind of this nebulous process where decisions got made. And I think that clarity and that openness has led to a lot of success, and it's created a stable environment for developers to make decisions. And you've generated a lot of trust in the community, where people know that if there is an issue, they can come to you and talk to you about it, and you guys work it out and figure it out in an appropriate way. And so I want to thank you for all your hard work. I know you have a team that helped you, but I just wanted to specifically point out that you've been the leader that's assembled that team and kept them together and trained them, and you've done a fantastic job doing that. And we really appreciate the work that you've done, because it has made a huge impact on this community. Thank you.
And just to finish those thoughts, I think it needs to also be said that you've done this starting at a higher percentage of permit process in a better economy. And so to also have gone through the peaks and valleys regarding our economies and have worked through that, and then now having a system working so well and still improving that time in a better economy with a higher volume, just speaks well to your leadership and your team. So thank you for that. Anything else, Mr. Olson?
Yes, I do have several other items, Mayor.
Thank you.
In the spirit of talking about improvements and striving to achieve higher performance, I wanted to let the council know that we are launching on an effort to kind of restructure and refine the operations and the mission of our public works functions. We're going to take all of our water utilities, which now operate as very separate entities, and combine them under one leadership, and kind of combine the operational efficiencies of those departments. So for example, instead of having each department have their own specialized equipment for digging trenches, for example, we're going to combine those and have one maintenance crew that deals with lines, and another crew that deals with the operation of our treatment plants. Instead of each one standing alone, we're going to combine those so that we have a sharing of equipment, and we have a sharing of talent, people power, and we believe the intent of doing this is not to reduce the budget or to reduce the staff at this point. The intent is to take the resources we have and do more with them. And so we're launching on that. There's been a lot of work. I've been working. I started working with Oscar Martinez on this a year and a half ago. We have carried this forward, and we're now at a point where we are ready to execute these changes. I would expect that by the time we have our next city council meeting, those changes will be in effect. So I'm very excited about that. So utilities and also our public works, our street maintenance, for example, stormwater, and other public works functions, we're going to do the same thing with them. So this entire group of departments, we're going to restructure, repurpose, and attempt to get more efficiency out of what we're doing. We're going to do a similar thing with our code enforcement. Again, we've been working on this issue for many, many months, and we are prepared now to begin the execution of changes where we take our code enforcement, which has been nested in neighborhood services, and we're going to re-nest them in the police department. There's been a tremendous partnership taking place with our Proud Partnership program, where we have linked code enforcement to law enforcement, and that's been working for us. And these changes are intended to take this up another notch, if you will, and see this operation perform even better. And it's going to help code enforcement. I think they're going to have the stature and the status of working with law enforcement more directly. And we're going to be executing these changes in the very near future, too. Again, by the time we meet again, I think those changes will be in effect. For your information, we have conducted city attorney interviews and completed those. We have not yet negotiated a contract, but I believe that we'll have an announcement for you at our next meeting. We've similarly, I forget how long it's been, maybe as much as a year ago, we reported to the city council our findings on our facilities maintenance, and we made a plan which we presented to the city council on how to improve the maintenance and operation of our facilities. That was a basic plan. One of the first big steps necessary in that plan was to have a facilities manager who could lead that effort. We have conducted interviews. I guess we'd say first round interviews on that, and I'm hoping that by the end of this week we'll have a selection on a facilities manager. We've had 4 really good candidates, all of whom, I guess the truth is we could pick any one of the 4 and be proud of the decision. We're going to refine that and pick the very best of those 4 really good candidates. So again, by the time we meet again, I think that important decision will be concluded. We are negotiating the terms of a contract with a planning firm to begin work on a new consolidated plan, comprehensive plan for the city. We're not quite finished with the negotiations, but by mid-January we should be back to the council with a proposed contract to discuss. This is going to be again, we've said this before in recent meetings. This is going to be really, really important for the future of our city, and we're making good progress at this point. And then the last thing I have to say is, some time ago we started talking to the council about consolidating our grounds maintenance and our mowing operations. This is, it's almost so self-evident that this needs to be done. It's like we talked about it 6 months ago. Why hasn't it been done? There's been a lot of work, a lot of background work that's needed in order to execute that change. And I'm expecting an actionable report from the affected departments by the end of January. So I'm looking forward. We've had some preliminary discussion on this, but I'm looking forward to a finalized, actionable report that we can execute this change, hopefully beginning this fiscal year, and then plan for it budget-wise into the next fiscal year, where we basically take the grounds maintenance responsibilities that are spread across 30 departments, and in some cases done well, and in other cases not done so well, and consolidate those in a way that, again, is more efficient, more cost-effective for the taxpayers, and gets the job done in a better way. So we'll be coming back first part of next year with those changes to report to you as well. These are all issues that I think are big-ticket items. They're very significant. We have been working on them for many months, and they're all kind of coming together at one time, and we're getting ready to execute on several of these for the improved operations of the city. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. It's an exciting time with all these efficiencies. On the ones that have been executed and will be, we'll start to unfold those and roll them out next year. If we can have some visual for the public, especially regarding some of these reorgs in the public works, and not only for the benefit of the council, you know, and our internal, but also our external customers as well, our taxpayers. And if we can, on the planning department, at what point do we plan, you said that that's going to be mid-January, that we plan to have that?
We should have a contract to you mid-January and we'll go through our normal process. We'll bring it in as a future agenda item, and then schedule it for an action, you know, a week or so after that. So
Okay.
we'll have time to present it to the council, make sure you understand exactly what we're proposing, and then have the council execute the contract.
Okay. And when will we have these updates on the website regarding the reorganization of public works and also of code enforcement?
Soon.
Okay.
I don't have an exact
You
time.
just sent a press release out. At the same time you were talking about it, my phone buzzed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too late to back out now, boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the information's out, but the website is another issue, and then frankly, that's something I need to talk to the city council a little more detail about.
Okay.
I have a
Because a
plan
lot of
for that
people,
as well.
in lieu of calling the city, we have several residents who just go directly to the website to find out who their point of contact is. And so that'll be a separate conversation. And so, but whenever that happens, that will be important to update as well.
It's a good point, Mayor, and we will work on that very quickly.
Otherwise, the mayor's office gets the majority of those calls, trying to give them all the
And
changes.
and we certainly don't need that.
I'll send them all to the city manager's office.
Yes, that will give me a certain amount of motivation.
This is really a great report. It just goes to show all the many, and some of these over a year in working on these. So thank you for all your hard work. Appreciate your leadership.